And here goes. So like I just mentioned, we talked about our connectives last time. And so what we're going to do is see how those connectives impact our truth values. So in section 3.2, we are going to look at the first three of the connectives, the negation, the conjunction, and the disjunction. And then with whatever time we have left, we'll move into section 3.3, which separately deals with the conditional and the biconditional. Okay, so the first one, the negation, I don't think is going to be any stretch of the imagination. In general, the negation just deals with one simple statement, and that simple statement is P. So whenever you are doing a truth table to figure out what the effect is of our connectives, what you're going to do first is you're going to list the possible options for the individual statements. So forget about the negation of P column. Here's my P column. There's only two possibilities for the statement P. And we talked about this last time. Statement P can have what or what as its truth values. Yes, if I tell you something, it is either true or it's false. One of those two things. So what we're going to do here is, if I can do this, well, now you can't even see. So statement P can either be a true statement or it can be a false statement. One of those two things. So I'm filling in the truth table. Those are the possible values of my statement. So now the next column is going to tell us, okay, if statement P is true, then what is the negation? What happens when I negate statement P? It'll be what? False. Perfect. So you're completing your first truth table. Congratulations. And so then again, if statement P is false, then the negation is going to be true. Okay, I don't think that's too big of a deal. And I think once you get the basic truth facts down pat, I don't think any of this is too bad of a deal, but make sure you ask your questions. My Tuesday, Thursday class thought that this was a lot less intimidating at the end than they did at the beginning. So I'm hoping the same is true for you. Are we okay with the negation so far? Do you see if I negate something, what happens to the truth value? Okay, I'm ready to move on then. I'm sure you're ready to move on as well. So the conjunction. The conjunction is the and statement. Now, before I worry about how an and statement affects my truth value, what I'm going to do is I'm going to list out all the possibilities. Now, we know from last time, my and statement requires at least two simple statements. So here's my two simple statements. So here are the possible options. There's four combinations of possibilities. So either P and Q can both be true statements when I give them to you. Now, I'm putting these in a particular order. This is my habit. I always put them in the same order. As long as you include all four possibilities, it doesn't matter what rows you put them in. Okay, I would just say be consistent because it makes it easier to learn. So statement P could be true. Statement Q could be false that I'm trying to join together. Statement P could be false. Statement Q could be true that I'm trying to join together. And then the only option that I haven't covered is that they both could be false. So that is how you will start every truth table that has two statements, is you will first list out the four combinations of trues and falses. Now what we're going to do is we're going to determine what the and statement does. And so I'm just going to make up a ridiculous little example. You go to McDonald's after class. And maybe you don't like McDonald's, but I do, so I'm picking the example. And you go to McDonald's and you say, okay, I want a cheeseburger and a small fry. So we all know, I think, intrinsically what and means. That means when they hand you your tray, what should be on that tray? Both of those things. Right? That's what you should have. So here we go. We're going to go through our truth table and we're going to see what happens. So the first row, okay, I'm covering up everything but the first row. The first row is true and true. So what that means is when you got your tray, there was a cheeseburger and there was a small fry. Did you get what you wanted? Yes. So this is a true outcome with our and statement. You with me so far? The next row says true and false. What that means is when you get your tray, there's a cheeseburger and there's apple slices on it. Now, it might be a healthier option, but did you get what you wanted? No. Okay, so that's false. The next row, false and true. You get handed the tray, there's some chicken nuggets and a small fry. Did you get what you wanted? No. And then last but not least, you get your tray. There's chicken. It's false and false. So it's chicken nuggets and apple slices. Did you get what you wanted? No. Okay. So summarize for me. This will help you learn. Under what conditions is an and statement true? Yeah, when they're both true. That's the only time. For an and statement to be true, both things have to be true. That's the only time. Okay. So again, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using these basic facts and we're going to build upon them. Okay. But once you understand, once you remember the negation simple facts, the conjunction simple facts, and in a moment the disjunction, you're good to go. There's nothing I can ask you that's going to be any different. We okay so far? All right. The other one. The disjunction, remember the disjunction is or. So again, first, before I even worry about what linking them together does, I'm going to first fill in the 4 possible things that could happen. I'm doing this in the same order I did previously because that's going to help lock it into my long-term memory. Now, this is non-standard. Okay, so I understand that. Let's say you go to McDonald's. You would never do this, but I think this helps you understand. Let's say you tell the person that takes your order, I want a cheeseburger or a small fry. You're leaving it up to them to decide for you. Okay, again, I know this is not a realistic situation, okay, but we're just understanding how the word or works here. Okay, so you've said, hey, I want a cheeseburger or a small fry. So the person comes back on the tray, true and true is a cheeseburger and a small fry. Did you get what you ordered? Yeah, you got both. Okay, an or statement can include getting both. Okay, so that is true. The next row, true or false. You come back on the tray is a cheeseburger and on the tray is a cheeseburger and apple slices. Did you get what you ordered? Yes, because this time you said or, you asked for something weaker. Okay, you said, give me a cheeseburger or a small fry, whatever's clever. Okay, so you again got what you wanted because you got the cheeseburger part of it. The third one down, this time you got the chicken nuggets and the small fry on the tray. Did you get what you ordered? Yes, you did, again, because you got the small fry part of it. The last one. You ordered a cheeseburger or small fry, chicken nuggets and apple slices come out. Did you get what you ordered? No, you did not get either thing, and all you asked for was for one or the other. Okay, so again, we're going to summarize because this is going to help you learn and remember. The or statement. When is the or statement true? When either one's true. Okay, only one of them has to be true. Okay, so an or is called a weaker relationship for that reason. It's not a value statement. It's just how math people define it. Okay, so I am going to now do the next example. If you can understand this example, then there is nothing about truth tables in this section that's going to be any more complicated than this. So what we're going to do is using those basic facts, we are going to construct the truth table for this statement right here. P and squiggly Q, P and not Q. Well, again, before I get started with anything, since there's only 2 simple statements, I'm going to fill in the 4 possible outcomes. So I'm just giving you a moment to get caught up with me. I don't want to get ahead. So if I'm going too fast, please let me know. So I am connecting 2 things together with an and. Do I have both of those things? Do I have a column for P? Do you see a column for P? Yes. Do I have a column for squiggly Q? No. So that's the first thing I need to do. First thing is I need to do a column for squiggly Q. So I'm going to do that. Squiggly Q right here. Just going to make a new column. Now there's more rows than when we did the negation, but it doesn't affect hopefully the outcomes here. So you told me earlier that when I do the squiggly, it just changes the truth value. So here goes. So I'm just going to go down the Q column. Instead of a true, it's now going to be false. Instead of a false, it's going to be and same thing, false and then true. Everyone see where I got those values? Okay, please, that's the key. So if you're not following along, ask a question. It's a perfect question. I don't have anything else. I have a column for everything that I see. So this is a fairly short truth table. I'm going to now do the column for P and squiggly Q. Now I am easily distracted, so I'm going to make a little recommendation here just so that we're using the right columns. I'm just going to put a little check mark right above the columns that I'm using. So I'm going to put a check mark above the P column. I'm going to put a check mark above the squiggly Q column. This helps me focus. If you don't need to do it, that's totally fine. Okay, I'm just letting you know the things that I do. So I'm going to go down this. We're connecting with an and. Remind me, how did we summarize that? The and statement is true when both are true. Great, here we go. So my first row is true and false. So that's going to be my next one, true and true. So this one's going to be yes, indeed. False and false. And then finally, false and true. Perfect. And we're done. There's nothing else to do. You've just done a truth table. We okay? Yes, sir. Because up here, I did use the Q, but just not in that final thing. I needed the Q to get the squiggly Q. Okay, so the Q is not directly in this final column, but I needed it to get the squiggly Q, which is what I linked together. Okay, make sense? Great question. Glad you asked it. Any other questions? All right, well then I've got a super similar problem for you. Okay, so do exercise 1. First, fill in your four rows of possible values, and then you're going to do the same sort of process we just did for example 1. Just to give everyone a little nudge, then I'll give you another minute. The statement I'm doing a truth table for is squiggly P or Q. So before I can do the truth table for this entire statement, what do I need to do a column for first? Yeah, so you need to do a squiggly P column. So if you haven't done that, do a squiggly P column. Then you'll have both things you need in order to do the full statement, squiggly P or Q. Give you another minute or so in case that was helpful. Finish up. So once again, to address the previous question, okay, P is not directly part of this statement, but I needed the P in order to figure out the squiggly P part. So that's what I'm going to do first. So I'm just going to go down each row. P starts off true, so squiggly P is false. True again, false. And then the last two are false, so I will make them true. Again, did I lose anybody there? Everybody tracking with me? Again, if you can do this, then we might have another negation or something, but this is the extent of doing a truth table. So you're doing really good. All right, so an or statement. Again, summarize. Let's take short-term memory things and bring them to long-term memory. When is an or statement true? When either one is true, yes. So I have squiggly P and I have Q. So I'm going to go down the rows. So I have true or false, false or false, true or true, And finally, false or true. Great, done. Before I turn the page, any questions, comments, concerns? Well, then I have another one for you on the top of the next page. In fact, it's not really much different than the previous problem because there's not a whole lot you can do with two statements and just the conjunction and disjunction. So doesn't really get too much more interesting as far as where we are. So looking at this, first off, we have parentheses. In arithmetic, when you see parentheses, what does that tell you to do? Distribute you could, but we wouldn't know how to do that in logic. So I'm going to push that to the side for just a moment because we will see later in the week there is a way we could distribute, but you can't just distribute directly, and it does impact some other things. So I'm going to just table that for a minute. What other thing do parentheses mean to do? Start there. Do what's inside first. So here's what I'm going to recommend you do. Okay, I'm going to give you some marching orders on this problem. What you're going to do is you're going to do a column for what's inside. You'll also have to do a column for the squiggly, and then you'll do the squiggly outside. That's going to be the very last thing that you do, the thing outside the parentheses. That's last. So give this your best shot, and we'll see how you did. You're going to lots more opportunities. Okay, so as I endeavor to do the truth table for this entire statement, what's the first column that I need to do? Yeah, before I can do what's inside the parentheses, I need a squiggly P because I don't have that. So I'm going to do a squiggly P right here. So there it is. So P is T, T, F, F. So squiggly P is just going to be the opposite, F, F, T, T. Still good so far? Now inside the parentheses, I'm going to take that squiggly P and I'm going to do or Q. So here's the squiggly P, here's the Q, squiggly P or Q. Well, the or statement you just told me a moment ago is true when either one is true. So that means what's the result I'm going to get from the first row? Okay, great. True or false is true. What's the second? False or false is false. The third? True or true is true. And then the last one? True again. Yes, false or true. Now that's not where we're stopping. The last thing we do is we've got this negation out front. If you remember last time, we said that the words associated with that are it is false that. So if that occurred to you. Okay, but either way, what that means is now I'm going to take this column I just made and I'm negating it. I'm changing the truth value. So what your last column, all of us should have the same last column here. True becomes false, false becomes true, true becomes false, true becomes false. And there we go. Anything arise there that you have a question about? Yeah. So I understand that as you get more experience with this, it's possible to do the squiggly P in your head at the same time that you do the other thing. So I could understand that. I would recommend you wait on that and practice it before skipping steps. Okay, it's kind of like when in algebra, when I teach students to solve equations, when I'm first teaching them to solve equations, I ask them to write every step. And then as you get better at it, if you can do the subtraction from both sides in your head, then I get that. Yeah, I understand. So if you get to that point, that's fine. Just be super careful. Okay. So good question. Any other questions you've got? All right, so the next problem, remember I've mentioned to you a couple times that what one of our end games is we want to do enough logic so that we can look at an argument and we can determine if it's going to be a valid argument or if it's an invalid argument. And so part of that is starting with something written in words and converting it to symbols and then going through the process. So what we're going to do here is we're going to link up this new knowledge we have from today with what we did last time. And it's just kind of like building blocks. We're building one thing on another. So in exercise 3, we're going to do this together one step at a time. I've asked you to do the following. We're going to write the following statement in symbolic form, and then we're going to construct the truth table. And here's the statement. Apples are not a good source of fiber, and oranges are a source of vitamin C. So first thing we have to do is we have to define the simple statements we're going to use. I've put a little P and a little Q right there. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds to write down your hypothesis for what they are. And I'm just going to remind you of one thing I said last time. When we define our simple statements, they're always defined without a negation. They're always defined positively. So give it a try. Do your best. And you only have to do that one step. All right, so it doesn't matter what order. I probably should have made sure we were all doing the same thing. It does not matter which statement you make P and which statement you make Q. So when you're doing this on the test, that will not affect whether you get the problem right or wrong. I'm just going to go in order from left to right. That's all. So the first statement we read are apples are not a good source of fiber. I'm going to stop there. Okay, so apples are not a good source of fiber. What is simple statement P that I should define from that? Yes, perfect. Apples are a good source of fiber. If you put the not in there, okay, forgive yourself. That's okay. Just cross it out or erase it. You always define your simple statements in the positive. We will add the negation with a squiggly when we write this out symbolically in just a minute. And so then I continue. Oranges are a good source of vitamin C. So that's already defined in the positive. So oranges are a source of vitamin C. Just want to repeat this in case anybody's confounded. If you made a statement P, oranges are a source of vitamin C, and you made Q, apples are a good source of fiber, that is totally fine. Okay, you will get the problem just as right as I get it. Okay, so don't worry. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do, again, this is what we did in class last time. Okay, so we're linking it with our new information. Right here in this area right here somewhere, I want you to write apples are not a good source of fiber and oranges are a source of vitamin C symbolically. Okay, so according to how I've defined my simple statements, how are we going to write apples are not a good source of fiber? Sure, squiggly P. And then and is the caret or the upside down V. And then oranges are a source of vitamin C. That is just Q. Perfect. Okay, now I'm going to give you 90 seconds. Do the truth table for that statement. So the first thing I need for this is a column for what? Indeed, squiggly P. So squiggly P is going to be false, false, true, true. Great job. And so then I have squiggly P and Q. You've already told me, I'm sure you would tell me again, that the and statement is true when both statements are true and at no other time. So as I go down the list, I've got true and false. That makes false. False and false. That makes false. True and true. That makes true. And false and true. That makes false. Anybody get anything different? Are we okay? Okay, great. Well then, as you can see, we've exhausted every possibility with a conjunction and a disjunction and negation when you just have two statements. So to make things a little more spicy, we do things with three statements. Now, you can do logic with any number of statements. And I also told you an application of logic is in creating circuits or networks. And you know, networks, if you're working at a business, there's lots of different nodes in the computer networks, but we're only going to stop at three because my goal here is not to torture you. I'm just trying to teach you a little bit of logic. Okay, once you understand a little bit, you can do bigger things. The hardest thing about a statement with three simple statements is just making sure that you have taken care of all 8 possibilities. Okay, I've got 8 rows here. There's 8 possible combinations of trues and falses. So I'm going to give you a little algorithm that works for me. This is how I have chosen to remember it. If this works for you, that's great. If not, find a different way to remember all 8. There's lots of different possibilities, but here's how I like to do it. What I'm going to do with column P. Column P, I'm going to fill in as 4 trues, then 4 falses. So I'm going to do true, 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 and then false, 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 false. 4 and 4. So far, so good? Now, statement Q. Statement Q, what I'm going to do is instead of going 4 and 4, what I'm going to do is go 2 and 2. So what I mean is I'm going to do 2 trues, then 2 falses, and then 2 trues, and then 2 falses. So I've done 4 and 4 for P. I've done 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 for Q. And then for R, I'm just going to alternate every other. So R, I'm just going to go true, false, and then again, true, false, false. And so you can see, you can read through, you have 8 completely different combinations. Okay, there's no other combinations, there's not fewer. Okay, it's 8 is what you're going to get. And if you're thinking, well, how many would there be if I had 4 simple statements? Well, there'd be 16. And what you would do is you'd add on another statement and you'd do 8 and 8 and then 4 and 4 and 4. But we're not going to do that. Okay, we're stopping at 3, just letting you know what the algorithm would be. Okay, but once you've done that, the actual finding the truth values does not change at all. You already know everything you need to know. So tell me, what should I do? What would you hypothesize I should do a column for first? Yes, what's in the parentheses? We should do a column for the P and Q. So go ahead and do that. Just that column. So P and Q, the basic fact about an and statement does not change. It's still an and is true if both are true. That's the only time. So I'm just going to put a little dot over column P, a little dot over column Q just to keep me focused. So here we go down that column. So I've got true and true. First one's true. True and true. Second one's true. True and false. False. True and false again. False. False and true. False and true, and then the last 2 are both false. So you should start off with 2 trues, and then the rest are falses. So far, so good? Well, then I only have one other column. We're just about done. What you're going to do last is you're going to take that P and Q column that we just did, and now you're going to conjunct it and R, and you'll be done. So go ahead, I'll give you 30 or 40 seconds to fill that in. Once again, this is a conjunction. Okay, it's an and R right there. So I'm going to take, this time I'm going to use a check mark. I'm going to take my P and Q column right there, check, and I'm going to and it with R. So both of them have a check mark that I'm using now. So here goes. A conjunction is true when both things are true. So I've got true and true, so that's good. False and true, that's the false one. True and false, false and false. True and false, false and false, true and false, false and false. So this time we've got 1 true and then 7 falses. And we're done. We good? All right, then flip the page, please. Just going to have you practice this because practice is what leads to remembering. So exercise 4, it's the same sort of thing. You've got 3 simple statements. So before you worry about that, first fill in your 8 possible combinations and then go ahead and do the truth table. I'm going to give you 2 or 3 or 4 minutes to go through that busy work. All right, so we're going to get started on this. If you're still working, keep working, check answers. A first question that somebody asked me, and somebody in my other class also asked me, is, hey, Perkster, does it matter if I do the squiggly P first, or should I do the stuff in parentheses first? And in this case, it does not matter. There's only one connective that order matters, and we haven't talked about it yet. We'll talk about it at the beginning of the next section. So if you did the parentheses, which I'm going to do the Q and R first. If you did squiggly P first, that is fine. That's what I'm going to do next. Okay, so it doesn't matter which one you do when. So Q and R. So here's my Q, here's my R. Just put a little tiny check mark above them. So this is an and statement. So true and true is true, true and false is false, false and true is false, false and false, true and true again, and then true and false, false and true, false and false. There we go. As I mentioned, I'm going to do squiggly P now. So squiggly P, column P is 4 trues, then 4 falses. So squiggly P is going to be 4 falses and then 4 trues. I'm going to pause here for just a moment. In either order, you should have those 2 exact columns. Anyone have any trouble so far? Okay, then whatever order you have, now we're going to take those 2 columns, my 2 orange columns that I have, and we're going to come up with our final answer. We're going to take the squiggly P, and we're going to do the and then Q and R. So here we go. I've got my Q and R. I've got my squiggly P. I'm doing them with the and. So true and false is false, false and false, false and false, false and false. Lots of falses. True and true, false and true, false and true, false and true. So you should have 1 true. It should be the fifth row down, and then all the other ones should be falses. We good? Awesome. I'm glad to hear. If you can do this, then the next couple sections are not going to present any difficulty to you. You're doing great. So again, just make sure we're practicing. Same thing. Go ahead and do exercise 5. Just to get me started, looking at this statement that I've got to create the truth table for, what should I do a column for first? Yeah, I'm attracted to those parentheses, And in the parentheses, I've got a squiggly P. So yes, I'm going to start with that right there first. So if you're still working, keep working. So statement P is 4 truths and 4 falses. So squiggly P is going to be just the reverse. 4 falses, 4 truths. Great. What else? What should I do next then? Yeah, we should do what's in the parentheses. The squiggly P or Q. Great. So here's my squiggly P column, just put a little X above it. Here's my Q column, I'm going to put a little X above it. And so I'm going to combine those with the disjunction, meaning the or statement. So the or statement's true when either one is true. So here we go. I've got true or false, that's true. I've got true or false, that's true. False or false, that's false. False or false, false. True or true, true. True or true, again, true. False or true, true. False or true, true. Perfection. Now there's nothing over here on the other side except for the R, so it's not a squiggly R or, a parentheses or anything. If it was a squiggly R, you could have done that much earlier. It wouldn't have mattered. But since it's just an R, I'm ready to be done. So I've got my parentheses, the squiggly P or Q, which we've already done, and then or R, which is already a column. So I'm going to put a check mark over these. I've got the squiggly P or Q right there. I've got the R right there. So I'm going to do both the columns that I've put the check mark over this time. Again, it's a disjunction. It's an or. An or is true when either one is true. So I've got true or true. Boom. I've got false or true. There you go. True or false. Another one. False or false. True or true. False or true. True or true. False or true. So I've got one false, it's the 4th row down, every other one is true. Again, any questions, comments, concerns? We're almost done with this section. You've done a great job. If you got anything, please bring it up. We're doing great. You're doing great. Time is on our side here. Okay, so the other thing you might be asked to do instead of a truth table is you might be given a specific set of conditions and asked what the value is. Now you could do a truth table and look for the row where P is true and Q is false and R is false, but that's a lot more work than you need to do. Here, what we're going to do is we're going to treat it like an arithmetic problem, and we're just going to do a substitution. So I'm going to do this first one, example 3. We're going to determine the truth value of the statement right here, given that P is true, Q is false, and R is false. Okay, that's what we're going to input. So here goes. If P is true, what's the value of squiggly P? Okay, so I'm going to put an F right there. And then I've got an or and some parentheses. If Q is false, what's squiggly Q? True. And then I've got an and then I don't have a squiggly in front of the R, so I'm just going to put the value of the R, and that is false. R is false. Does everyone see where I got each of those values? I don't want to rush on, but once you do, the rest of this just falls out. It's just the truth table. Remember, an and is only true when both are true, and or is only true when either one of them are true. So here we go. Inside the parentheses, I've got true and false. So that has to be what? Yep. And so then false or false is? So that means whatever statements you were given, if they occur like that, then you have been told a falsehood. Okay, so last problem for this section. Exercise 6, go for it. I think I've kept the statement the same as the previous problem, but I've changed the values we're plugging in. So squiggly P, if P is false, that means you should have written a true right there for squiggly P, or parentheses, Q is false, so squiggly Q is going to be true, and then R is true. So in the parentheses, true and true, that's true. And then true or true, again, that is true. That should be the final result. All right, before I shut off the recording, any questions of any sort do you have?